Hello, I'm Steve McNall from Now Media Group. I'm joined today by the Mayor of Merritt, Michael Getz. Welcome, Michael.
Welcome. Thank you. Thank you for the invite. I appreciate it.
I spoke with you 8 days ago, and at that point, there were three emergency room closures at Nicola Valley Hospital in Merritt
Yes.
so far this year.
Yes.
Last year, there had been none in that period.
Right.
Since then,
We actually didn't see a closure until about the 9th of June.
and since we spoke 8 days ago, and there was three closures, there's been four more closures in just
Yes.
1 week.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Uh, right now, it's staff availability. That's what we get. So we're not sure if it's a doctor or a nurse situation. Now, one thing we have to understand too is we're in the middle of a fairly deep influenza situation. So there could be someone who's not well or whatever, but it's just there's not enough staff to keep the ER open. There's enough staff for the hospital, for the people who are in the hospital to be open, but the ER doesn't have enough people in it to staff it, so they close it.
How many staff do you need to actually operate the ER in a smaller
That
hospital like yours?
that is a good question. I do not know that. Those are not particulars. That's more of an IHA question. I'm not really aware. I just know that we have a shortage of about 44% more nurses than we should have. So we're about 44% short. That's kind of the number that's handed out over the number of years. So I'm not sure what that number actually looks like. IHA, we've asked for some of this information, but we haven't received some of it. So, and it might be information that we're not allowed to have, or it might be private. So, I'm not sure how many people it takes to run an ER. I have no idea.
So, hypothetically, if one doctor or one nurse calls in sick or is on holidays, that could disrupt things and cause a
Yes,
closure.
it most definitely could. Yes.
So, does the hospital in Merritt rely a lot on locums and people being brought in just for one shift or a couple of shifts to keep things going?
Yeah, locums are a big part of our hospital staying open. We did have some doctor supply issues for a while, and some nurses have been brought in. They're called nurse to go. They come in. So we have had both. Yes, both of those are required here for us to stay open sometime.
So, that doesn't really seem like a long term solution. What is the long term solution?
Well, the long term solution is, I've talked about what we need to start sharing information. We know that we've been at this now for about almost 2.5 years. What we need to start seeing is what the graduation classes are, how many are graduating, where they're going, and return on investment. Doctors and nurses are given interest-free loans or free loans as long as they graduate. But we'd like to see some of the nurses stay in the country to pay off that debt. I guess making it easier for people to go through the system, making their education easier to get, and we might have to start talking about assigning nurses and doctors to smaller communities, like the RCMP does with Depot. Is what we might have to talk about. But these are numbers that we are asking to see, so we can kind of work with IHA or anyone else or the ministry to start coming up with a formulated plan of where we see a big leak or a big hole. How can we help you plug that hole? We offer free room and board here for doctors and nurses. We have two fully furnished brand new trailers that are available at any point in time for doctors and nurses that want to come to the community and help us with the work. We bear that cost as a city because that's we're offering that as our part to try and fix the problem. So we that's one thing we were made aware of early on, is that we needed areas or somewhere for the doctors and nurses to be. So we've taken care of that. And I'm asking IHA to get more involved with us as far as nurse line schedules, so we know where the nurses are, or if we're looking at something 10 days down the road where there might be a problem, how we can start working on it now. So just things like that.
And just in this discussion, obviously that's not going to happen tomorrow. So, do you see it as a 1 year or a 2 year project?
I've been really honest with this, that this is anywhere from a 3 to 5 year plan to get this completely. It's not just happening in BC, it's happening everywhere right now. It's right across Canada. I was FCM 2 years ago, which is the Federation of Canadian Municipalities in Toronto. And this was the major topic of discussion right across the board from every province in Canada. This is happening everywhere. So yeah, this is easy, a 3 to 5 year plan. as long as we have everybody, like the Ministry of Health, the HAs, and the communities that are suffering all work together to come up with a plan. We've got to come up with a plan and a process and what's missing, what's not happening, so we can start to patch those holes and get this system fixed.
And in the meantime, it's smaller communities like Merritt that bear the brunt of it because there can be an ER closure in Merritt and they just shuttle people off to either Kamloops or Kelowna.
Yep.
And it's not going to be a problem in Kamloops or Kelowna. The ERs won't close here, but they'll continually close in communities like Merritt, Clearwater, Chase, some of the ones that you've mentioned before.
Yep. Yep, that's a real possibility that's going to happen. I mean, one of the things that we have to understand here too is when nurses come out of their training and they've become certified, they've gone through a baby rotation, a psych rotation, a surgery rotation. So they're very anxious to use those tools, and they are. But when we have a smaller hospital like ours, there's no babies born here. There's no surgeries done here. There's no, so a lot of what they've learned, they want to use right away, but they can't use it in the smaller hospitals. So they choose to go to the bigger hospitals where they can use what they've learned, and it's exciting for them to start using that. So smaller communities that have a hospital like ours do not offer those. So we're not as attractive as the bigger centers.
Now, in reality, I mean, you can get to Kamloops or Kelowna from Merritt,
Yep.
but it's inconvenient, it's not good for the community, and does it lead to close calls? Has there been some close calls in Merritt in the past year?
Well, yes, we've had several. About a year and a half ago, we had a gentleman that had collapsed at the front doors and couldn't get in, and the fire department was there to help him out. Last Sunday night, we had a house fire here, and we had 23 firefighters on scene. Now, when there is a fire being fought, such as this one, and it goes on for a long time, paramedics have to be there to monitor the firefighters as they're fighting fires, their blood pressure, all of that kind of, their psyche as they're working. And every 4 Scott air packs that they go through, they have to be seen by a paramedic. Hospital was down, which means our paramedics now start transporting people to Kelowna and Kamloops. At one point, we did not have those paramedics there to monitor our firefighters. One of our firefighters ended up with a situation where he had to seek medical help, and they took him up to the hospital. So he ended up going to Kamloops. He was denied service here because our hospital was closed. And then, so he dehydrated and some smoke inhalation. And then when he was done, they just released him. And now he had to call somebody to drive all the way over to Kamloops, pick him up and bring him back home. That should not be happening to people that are first responders in our community. And these are the gaps that we see. You talk about Merritt. We are a town that has a lot of seniors. Somebody has a stroke. Do you want your golden hour in the back of an ambulance going to Kamloops and Kelowna? And if the roads are bad, that time is even longer. So let's say we've got a big blizzard going on. The last place you want to be is on those passes through the Coquihalla either way. And when you do get to the hospital in Kamloops or Kelowna, you're not seen first. You go to the very back of the line. And the paramedics can't be released until that patient has been registered. So they could be sitting there for another hour or two before they're released. And then when they are released, they can then be shuttled, if they're in Kelowna, to an incident in Kelowna, because now Kelowna has an extra ambulance there and they may be short. So then all of a sudden, our paramedics don't come back for 16 hours. So these are the things that happen with that. And it becomes a situation where a small community like mine ends up losing their paramedics. And that's why we have our fire department responds to everything, because a lot of the time they're the first ones on the scene and they have to administer first aid, which they're trained for, but they can't transport. So they cannot transport anybody. So now they got to start phoning for an ambulance. Phone, Princeton, Penticton, Logan Lake. Has somebody got an ambulance? Ambulance takes an hour to get here, to package them up for another hour journey. So 2 hours later, you're there. So there's a lot of consequences that come with this.
Yes, there's a huge ripple effect.
Yeah, there is.
23 closures last year in Merritt, and they ranged anywhere from 12 hours to 24 hours, in one case 48 hours, I believe.
Yeah.
Do you think it's going to be worse this year through 2025?
Well, if we're going on we're 7 times now. If you're going on these numbers that we're talking about, we're looking at 30 to 35 closures if we stay on these numbers. So the first year we had 19 closures. Last year we had 20. And so far this year we've had 7. 44 in total, or 45 in total in 3 years. I'm hoping that this is just an influenza situation and we've got people that are sick. And one thing I want to preface here is that we shouldn't have to push our doctors and nurses to work 36 and 48-hour shifts to keep our hospital open because we're not staffing it correctly. That's not up to them to carry that load. They have families. They want to see their kids. They want to go to school plays and stuff. They want to go on vacations. So we can't expect them to always, always, always put everything aside to keep our hospital open. You can't put that kind of pressures on people. So I'm going to be honest with you. The new Minister of Health, I've had several conversations with her. She is from a small town. She used to be a mayor of a smaller community, so she's aware of the rural struggles. And she has taken some leadership. She has allowed Saanich on a pilot program to have two nurse practitioners, or I think it's nurse practitioners. So that's a step in the right direction. Now I phoned her the next day and said, can we have the same thing? Because we all the help we can get here. The minister is going to be meeting with a group of us. Lori Hopful, the mayor of Lillooet, has formed a group of mayors like myself and other mayors that we're going to be meeting with the minister on the 28th. And we're going to be like the mayor's group that talks about transit. We're going to be meeting with the minister regularly to talk about what the situation in our communities are and how we can work together to fix this issue and how we can share resources and move forward with a plan and offer help to fix the situation. It can't just be up to one group. We've got to have everybody involved. IHA, the communities, the Ministry of Health. We've all got to work together because there's some really great minds out there that see things and have different ways of doing things. So we all need to work together. I believe this minister is serious about fixing this, but we have to understand this is going to take a while. 3 to 5 years, I think, is a fair assumption of how it's going to go.
Well, good luck, Michael. Thank you for joining us today and explaining the situation. Good luck.
Thank you, and thank you for always getting the messages out for us because we rely on the press to get these messages out, so I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
We don't just report the news. We live here too. We're your neighbors, bringing you stories that matter to all of us. No government funding, no outside influence. Kelowna Now, local.